Imagine this, a quiet, nearly empty parking lot late at night. A black woman in her early 30s steps out of her car, dressed in a sharp suit, briefcase in hand, exuding confidence and professionalism. She's just finished a long day at work and is heading home, but as she locks her car and begins walking, the calm is shattered. Headlights blaze behind her, tires screech, and a police car pulls up aggressively. She stops, turns, and sees the officer already stepping out, his hand resting on his holstered weapon. "What are you doing here?" he snaps. Confused but calm, she answers, "Heading home from work." But her answer doesn't matter. "Hands on the car," he barks. She hesitates, trying to ask why, but he cuts her off. "Do it now." The officer's voice is sharp, commanding, and full of assumptions. She places her briefcase on the ground, raises her hands, and steps toward her car. "This is unnecessary," she says firmly, trying to keep her composure. But he grabs her arm, twisting it behind her back, forcing her against the vehicle. She feels the cold steel of handcuffs snapping around her wrists. "I haven't done anything wrong," she protests, her voice steady despite the anger rising in her chest. He doesn't listen. He doesn't care. And that's when it happens. Picks up her briefcase, flips it open, and freezes. His face goes pale. Inside, neatly tucked away, is her badge, her FBI badge. In that moment, everything changes. The officer stares at the badge, his mouth opening and closing as he stumbles over his words. I didn't know," he mutters, his tone shifting from aggressive to defensive. But she doesn't let him off the hook. She straightens herself, despite the cuffs still cutting into her wrists, and locks eyes with him. "You didn't want to know," she says, her voice sharp as a blade. "You assumed." The silence that hangs between them is deafening. The officer fumbles to uncuff her, his hands shaking. "I thought," he starts, but she cuts him off. "You thought I didn't belong here," she says. "You thought I was a threat, and now you're trying to backpedal because you know you're wrong." Her words hit him like a hammer. She doesn't shout, doesn't lose her composure. She doesn't have to. Every word she says carries the weight of years of assumptions, prejudice, and injustice. This isn't just about one interaction. It's about what that interaction represents. She's not just a black woman in a suit. She's an FBI agent who's dedicated her life to upholding the law. And yet, here she is, targeted, humiliated, treated as less than human because of the color of her skin. The incident doesn't end in that parking lot. As the officer tries to apologize, she tells him plainly, "This isn't over." She files a formal complaint, not just against him, but against the entire department. She knows this isn't an isolated incident. It's part of a larger problem, one she's determined to expose. The investigation that follows shakes the department to its core. The officer is suspended, his record scrutinized, and his history reveals a pattern of similar behavior. The department is forced to confront its own biases and implement mandatory training to address racial profiling, but for her, it's not enough. She knows that her badge saved her that night, but she can't stop thinking about those who don't have a badge to protect them. How many others have been mistreated? How many stories go untold because the victims feel powerless to fight back? Her story becomes a catalyst for change. Community leaders, activists, and everyday citizens rally together, demanding accountability and reform. She uses her platform as an FBI agent to advocate for justice, speaking out at events, sharing her experience, and pushing for systemic change. This isn't just about one racist cop or one brave woman. It's about a system that needs to be challenged and a society that needs to do better, because no one should have to prove their humanity, their worth, or their right to exist without fear. So, here's the question. What will it take for us to stop judging people by their appearance and start seeing them for who they truly are? Because change doesn't begin in a parking lot. It begins with all of us.